They were the envy of the town. Every year, they arrived like shadows cloaked in elegance. Women dressed in rich black silks, bald heads shining like polished obsidian, gold dripping from their ears and wrists. They didn't walk, they glided. Their scent, a mix of oud, powder and old secrets, lingered long after they were gone. They were known as the Iron Ladies, a private society of widows. But not just any widows. These were women who buried their husbands and emerged, suspiciously, richer, freer, bolder. There were rumors, loud ones, that they killed their men for wealth, that they sold their love and loyalty to something darker in exchange for power, that every year they held secret recruitment dinners, choosing which grieving widow would get a taste of their empire next. But the Iron Ladies weren't interested in explaining themselves. They were too busy attending high-end events in Lagos, chewing naira like it grew on trees, building empires from ash and blood. If you saw them at a party, you'd remember them forever. Not just because of the luxury, not just because of the bald heads, but because something about them made your skin crawl. Power. Real power. Not the kind you ask for, the kind you pay for, with something irreversible. 2 years ago, Sophia was just a quiet woman in Lagos, married, ordinary, struggling. But then, her husband died. A strange death, sudden, unexplained. Barely a month later, Sophia disappeared from public view. When she returned, she was a completely different woman. Before Sophia became the talk of Amuzu village, before the black SUV, the designer shades, and the hushed whispers of witchcraft and wealth, she was just another struggling woman in the unforgiving streets of Lagos. She lived in a one-room apartment with her husband Ebuka, a man with kind eyes but tired hands. They had been married for 3 years. 3 years of tears, hunger and disappointment. Their union bore a child, a little girl named Ada, their only light in a world filled with darkness. But even that light was too faint to survive. Ebuka worked as a laborer at my 12 market, carrying heavy loads for a few naira. He returned home each night, drenched in sweat and disappointment. Sophia sold oranges by the roadside, dodging KAI officials and Okadas just to make 20 naira profits. Life did not just hand them lemons, it squeezed into their eyes. The day Ada fell sick was the day Sophia felt the universe laugh at her. The child had a fever that burned like fire. They rushed her to the clinic, but the doctor refused to touch her until a deposit was made. They begged, they cried, they were ignored. 2 days later, Ada died in Sophia's arms, not because of some great illness, but because of poverty. Sophia did not speak for days. Her husband stopped going to work. The silence in the house was louder than grief. Weeks passed, and one hot Thursday afternoon, Sophia was back at the market, balancing her tray of oranges with tired fingers. She moved from store to store, calling out, "Sweet oranges! Buy sweet oranges!" when a sleek black Prado jeep pulled into the market square, like royalty arriving at a peasant court. Out stepped a woman, dressed in all black, bold, glowing and elegant. She was intimidating like a black panther in human form. Sophia froze. She turned, squinting against the sun, and saw a familiar face. Clara! Clara! Her voice cracked. Oh my God! They ran into each other's arms. It had been years since university. Back then, they shared a dorm room, food and secrets. Now, Clara looked like a woman who hadn't suffered a day in her life. My sister. Clara pulled back, staring at her tray of oranges. You are hawking. In this Lagos? Sophia gave a weak smile. It's a long story, my sister. Clara didn't say anything else. She opened her car door. Get in. Sophia hesitated, then obeyed. They drove in silence through the busy city streets until they pulled into a gated plaza. Clara's boutique was a glass paradise. Mannequins and diamonds, clothes from Italy, perfumes that smelled like power. Sophia's jaw dropped. Jesus, Clara, This is your shop? Clara smiled. One of them. Inside, they sipped fruit cocktails and sat in a plush lounge corner. Sophia was still dazzled by the luxury. You're living the dream, she said. Her eyes darting around the boutique. You're swimming in money. What's your secret? Clara leaned in and chuckled. Forget my money. Let's talk about you. How did your life get this bad? You were one of the hottest girls back in school. Sophia sighed. Life happened. My husband and I are struggling. Our daughter died because we couldn't afford hospital bills. I'm just tired, Clara. I'm drained. I don't even know who I am anymore. Clara took her hands in hers. You are not alone. I was once like you. Broke, hopeless, scrapping from gutters. But look at me now. Sophia blinked. How? I'll help you, Clara said. But you have to trust me. It's not for the faint-hearted. Are you ready to leave this poverty behind? Sophia hesitated. She thought of her dead daughter, her husband sleeping hungry, her trail of oranges, her one-room apartment. I'm ready, she whispered. I have nothing else to lose. That night, Sophia followed Clara to her mansion in Lekki. Midnight came. The air turned still. Clara led her down a dark staircase behind a hidden panel in the living room. It was a chamber lit by nothing but black candles. The air smelled of incense and old secrets. Standing at the head of a long upstairs table was a tall, graceful woman in black lace. She too was bald. Her name was Madame Ireti. All around her were women, bald, wealthy, regal, silent. Clara whispered, the Iron Ladies. Sophia's heartbeat quickened. Madame Ireti spoke with a voice around the room like smoke. Sophia, you seek freedom from poverty. Sophia nodded. Then you must pay the price. Sophia swallowed. What price? The room darkened as the candles flickered violently. Madame Ireti stepped forward. You will kill your husband. His death is your doorway to wealth. Once the blood spills, you shall shave your hair and offer it to the altar as a covenant. Sophia staggered back. No, I can't kill Ebuka. He's my husband. The women around her remained still, cold, watching. Madame Ireti's voice turned sharp. You have until the full moon to decide. Refuse, and you and your husband will die in a slow, painful death. You have been chosen, Sophia. Either you become one of us, or be buried like the rest of them. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Her hands shook. She looked at Clara, who nodded calmly, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. Sophia whispered, I need to think. Madame Ireti smiled. Time is ticking, and poverty has never been patient. Sophia was pacing like a trapped animal. Her feet sank into the plush white rug in Clara's living room, but it felt like fire beneath her soles. Her breath was short, her heart beat like a funeral drum. She spun around sharply. Her voice cracked. Clara, how could you? She shouted. I thought you were trying to help me start a business. I thought you were helping me out of poverty, not dragging me into some underground cause asking me to kill my husband. Tears streamed down her face like a broken dam. Her voice shook with horror. How am I supposed to kill Ebuka? He's my husband, my partner, the father of my late child. How do you expect me to do this? I can't kill anyone, let alone Ebuka. I can't believe you, Clara. You've put me in a nightmare. You're not a good friend. She sank to the floor, sobbing into her palms. Clara crossed her arms, her bald hair gleaming under the chandelier, eyes cold and sharp like a dagger wrapped in satin. Ungrateful. Her voice was low at first. Then she snapped. You are just so ungrateful, Sophia. You were dying in poverty, rotten, and I gave you a key, a way out, and now you're crying. Girl, wake up. She marched over and pulled Sophia up by the arms. You said you were tired of suffering. Well, this is the price of freedom. This is how empires are built. You trample on weakness, you walk through blood, and when you rise golden. You want wealth, power, prestige. Then stop crying like a child and grow the F up. Sophia looked at her broken, shattered. Her lip trembled. Clara's voice softened. Just a little. What has Ebuka ever done for you? Really? Since you married him, have you known peace? Happiness? You are the one who suffered, Sophia. You begged in the streets. You starved. You lost your daughter because you were poor. You have nothing left to lose. And just like that, silence fell between them. The days that followed were dark. Clara didn't push again. She simply waited, cooking for Sophia, pampering her, showing her the boutique numbers, introducing her to other bowed widows who lived like queens. And each night, Sophia lay in the guest room staring at the ceiling, hearing the words echo. You must kill him or you will die too. One morning, Sophia woke up and simply said, okay. Clara didn't ask, okay what? She just nodded. And 2 nights later, Ebuka was dead, poisoned by a meal Sophia had prepared with shaking hands and eyes full of tears. She wept over his body, cried during the burial, but her hair, gone, shaved clean, offered on the obsidian altar of the Iron Ladies. And then, the floodgates of wealth opened. 2 months later, Sophia was unrecognizable. Diamonds on her wrist, a penthouse in Ikoyi, 3 boutiques under her name, wine in crystal flutes, money sprayed at parties like confetti. She had become one of them, a bald widow. She no longer flinched when walking past a cemetery. She no longer missed Ebuka, not really. She told herself he died for a purpose, for her rebirth. She and Clara were inseparable now, queens of the Lagos nightlife. They laughed at rooftops, attended secret gatherings, and hosted powerful men who didn't ask questions. Then came the call. The Iron Ladies' rule was clear. Every member must recruit at least 1 new widow each year, or face consequences. And Sophia, her time had come. That was why she returned to Amuzu in her sleek black SUV, sunglasses perched on her face, her head bald and glowing like polished stone. She came not just to visit, but to recruit. And fate played its hand, because on that dusty village road, she saw Chioma, her childhood friend, her school bestie, struggling, tired, desperate, exactly like she once was. And so, the web was spun again. Sophia blinked. Chioma. She hit the brakes and stepped out of the car. Chioma, she called. The woman looked up confused. She stared at Sophia like she was a stranger. It's me, Sophia. Chioma gasped. Her jaw dropped. Her hand went to her chest. Sophia, oh my God. They hugged tightly. People passing by paused to watch. Old friends reunited. But something about the moment felt off. Chioma pulled back and stared at her. Is this really you? You're looking so beautiful. I'm really sorry about your husband's death. I heard about it. But girl, you are glowing. What's the secret? Sophia smiled. It was slow, controlled. This is not something we can discuss here, she said, glancing around. Come, let's go somewhere quiet. Minutes later, they sat inside a quiet restaurant and bar newly opened in the village. The air smelled like grilled catfish and polished towels. Chioma still couldn't stop staring. Jesus, Sophia, you look like you live in America. What happened to you? Sophia leaned forward, her voice low. Chioma, what are you still doing in this village? Chioma sighed. She looked down, twisting the hem of her blouse. It's been rough. I'm the one feeding my entire house now. My husband lost his job in Port Harcourt. Something about stolen money. We had to move back here and start from scratch. Then some months later, he had a terrible bike accident, broke his leg. He's been almost useless since. I run a small provision shop just to feed the kids. 4 children, Sophia. I am exhausted. There was a silence. Then Sophia reached out and held her hand. Her grip was cold but firm. I'm sorry you're going through this, but Chioma, listen to me carefully. You don't have to suffer anymore. Chioma blinked. What do you mean? Come to the city this weekend. Stay with me. Just for a few days. I will show you something. something that can change your life forever. Chioma stared at her unsure. There was something in Sophia's eyes, comforting but strange. I don't understand. What are you talking about? Sophia smiled. She dipped her hand into her sleek purse and pulled out a bundle of crisp 1,000 naira notes. Here, for now, get something for your kids. Get some peace. Chioma took it, almost afraid to touch it. Sophia, this is too much. It's nothing. It's just a taste. Just come. Let me show you how I got here. I want to help you. Chioma nodded slowly. The money felt heavy in her lap. That night, she didn't sleep. Her husband's snores were loud. Her child were coughing again. And the kerosene lamp was flickering. But all she could think about was Sophia's eyes and that black silk and that strange feeling in her chest when Sophia said, "You don't have to suffer anymore." She had no idea what waited in Lagos, but she had already crossed the first line, and in the word of the Iron Ladies, there is no turning back. Chioma couldn't sleep for days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sophia again. Her flawless skin, her bald head gleaming under soft light, the mysterious calm in her voice, the way she spoke about wealth, as if it was something you could just walk into. By Friday morning, Chioma had packed a small Ghana must-go bag. She told her husband she was going to see an old friend in the city. He barely looked up. "Don't stay long," he muttered from his mouth. "The kids will be hungry." She nodded, but her heart was already gone. Sophia's mansion in Lekki wasn't just beautiful, it was terrifying. A black gate with a gold lion's head, a long driveway surrounded by trimmed hedges, and the house itself looked like something from a luxury magazine. Marbled floors, a crystal chandelier, the size of a satellite dish, silent maids in uniform. Chioma stepped inside like someone stepping into another planet. "Sophia, this your house is like a palace." Sophia smiled, standing at the top of the stairs like a queen. She was wearing a black silk robe. Her head gleamed like a mirror under the lights. No wig, no earrings, just confidence, soaked in silence. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "Come, let's talk." That evening, they sat in a velvet lounge, a bottle of red wine, jazz playing in the background. Everything was dim, expensive, intentional. Sophia looked at Chioma and said, "Tell me something. If you could change your life forever, leave poverty behind, feed your children well, build your own house, would you do it?" Chioma didn't even think. Yes, even if it meant sacrificing something. Chioma paused. Like what? Sophia took a slow sip of wine. Her lips curled into the faintest smile. "Everything you don't need." There was silence. Then Sophia stood and walked over to a drawer. She pulled out a thick black envelope and handed it to Chioma. Inside were 5 bundles of cash. Fresh. Blue. 500,000 naira. Chioma gasped. This is too much." "No," Sophia said. "This is just your welcome gift. You are coming to the dinner tomorrow night. You'll meet the other women. They will explain everything." Chioma clutched the envelope like it was life itself. "What kind of dinner?" Sophia's voice lowered. Her eyes sharpened. "The kind of dinner where you are not allowed to ask too many questions. You just listen and you learn." Saturday night. The car that picked them up was jet black with tinted windows. The driver didn't speak a word. Chioma sat beside Sophia, heart pounding. They drove for nearly an hour out of the city into a private, gated estate. The house they arrived at wasn't loud or flashy. It was old money. It had that quiet power vibe, dark windows, smooth stone, and statues of faceless women at the gate. Chioma stepped out, suddenly aware of how underdressed she felt in her borrowed gown. Then they came, the Iron Ladies. One by one, bald-headed women glided into the hall, each dressed in black, each silent, each radiating an aura that felt almost otherworldly. Some were young, some were in their 50s. All of them had the same thing in common: cold eyes, graceful movements, and absolute control. Chioma stayed. She didn't know whether to kneel, run or cry. Sophia gently took her hand. They were once like you, confused, scared, struggling. There was a large black table, candles lit, wine glasses full, no food yet, only the scent of something herbal in the air. Then a woman stood at the head of the table. She was older, maybe in her 60s. Her voice was smooth, like silk on a knife. "Welcome, Chioma," she said. "We have heard so much about you." Chioma blinked. "You know my name? We know everything about you. We only invite women who are ready. Women who are willing to do what weak women cannot. Here, we do not beg for power, we take it." Chioma's throat was dry. The woman stepped closer. "Do you want to feed your children without shame? Do you want to own your own land, your name, your future?" Chioma nodded slowly. "Then eat with us tomorrow, and we'll begin." That night, Sophia gave Chioma a room. It was luxurious, but something about it felt too quiet. There was no mirror. The walls were dark, and when Chioma tried to pray, the words wouldn't come out. She sat on the bed, holding her new phone, another gift, and looking at the stacks of money on the table. But in a corner of the room, behind the curtain, a small black box sat, untouched, locked. Sophia had told her not to open it. "Not until you say yes." Chioma didn't know what was inside, but she had a feeling that once she opened it, she would never be the same again. At midnight, Chioma was invited into the dark chamber. She stood frozen at the threshold of the dark chamber, the chill in the air wrapping around her like a noose. The room was lit only by black candles. Shadows danced on the walls. The table at the center was carved from stone, shaped like a coffin, and the floor beneath was cold marble, dark, veined, and ancient. At the head of the table sat Madame Ireti, the high priestess of the Iron Ladies. Her bald hair shimmered under the candlelight like polished obsidian. Her eyes were two black holes, bottomless, unreadable. Around her, the other women sat in silence, draped in black robes. Their faces calm, but their presence menacing. At exactly midnight, Madame Ireti stood. "Welcome," she said, her voice echoing unnaturally, "to the Iron Ladies Club. This is where suffering ends and power begins." Chioma's legs trembled beneath her. Her voice was dry, her throat locked. "You said you want money. You want to end your suffering. You want your children to eat without begging. You want to sleep without counting coins," Madame Ireti said, voice now sharp. "Then you must give us what binds you to poverty." Chioma blinked. Madame Ireti's eyes darkened. "You must kill your husband." The words dropped like a thunderclap. Chioma gasped loudly, stumbling backward. One of the women behind her caught her shoulder and pushed her forwards, gently but firmly, like a herder guarding a lamb to slaughter. Her voice shook. What do you mean, kill my husband?" Madame Ireti didn't flinch. "You heard me. You cannot serve two masters. Your husband is your past life. He must die, or your future dies with him." Another woman stepped forward with a ball. Inside it, a razor blade and a lock of black hair, glistening like it had just been cut. "You must shave your head," Madame Ireti continued. "You will offer your hair to the altar of transformation. Hair is power. Hair is pride. Hair is memory. We give it up to birth wealth. This is the covenant." Chioma's legs buckled. She fell to her knees. No, I can't do this. I love my husband. He's not perfect, but he came into my life and stood by me when my world was upside down. He's all I have." A heavy silence followed. Then came the laughter, cold, slow, sharp. Madame Ireti laughed like a crow perched on a corpse. Then she stepped forward and crouched down in front of Chioma face to face. "Young lady, do not waste the club's time," she said, now almost whispering. "This is not a charity. This is a kingdom, and in kingdoms, blood must spill. Chioma trembled violently. "If you walk away," Madam Irete said, "you and everyone you love will begin to suffer, not from poverty, but from torment, illness, madness, slow deaths. You won't even know when it started or where it came from. That is the price of betrayal." The words didn't feel like a threat. They felt like a sentence. Chioma turned to Sophia, tears streaming. "How could you do this to me? You were my best friend." Sophia stood calmly, arms folded across her black robe, her bald hair glowing under the flickering candlelight. "You said you wanted help," she replied coldly. "I gave you the key. Now you are angry because the door is heavier than you thought? Be serious, Chioma. This is not village girls drama. This is wealth, power. You either take it or you die watching others lead the life you could have had." Chioma's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Then Madam Irete rose and said with finality, "You have until the next full moon. If your husband is alive by then, we will take him ourselves, and it will not be clean." With that, the black candles blew out. The meeting was over. That night, Chioma didn't sleep, not a blink. She lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, mind spiraling into chaos. By dawn, she packed her bag quietly. She didn't say goodbye to Sophia. She didn't wait for breakfast. She got into the first bus heading to her village, body numb, soul cracked. Back in the village, the air felt different. The same roads, the same trees, but Chioma felt like a stranger in her own life. Her children ran to hug her, but all she could do was hold them with tears in her eyes. Her husband was in the backyard sitting on a stool peeling yam. He smiled when he saw her. "You're back too soon?" he asked. Chioma tried to smile, but her lips wouldn't move. She stared at him in silence. The man who had lost his job, the man who had become broken, the man who made her angry sometimes, but also the man who never left, never cheated, never raised his voice, never gave up. Could she really do it? Could she truly end him? That night, she locked the doors and sat alone with the black box Sophia had given her before she left. She hadn't opened it yet. Now her fingers trembled as she unclasped the latch. Inside was a small dagger, a strand of black thread, a black candle and a note. "You know what to do. Do not delay. Your destiny or his breath. Choose." Chioma sat frozen in the dark, staring at the objects in front of her, her mind spiraling into a tunnel of fear, confusion and dread. She heard a whisper. It wasn't real, but it felt close. One must die for the others to live. Chioma didn't sleep again. She sat cross-legged on the floor of her one-room home, the black box still open in front of her like a cursed offering. The candle inside seemed to flicker even without flame. The dagger, small, sharp, ancient-looking, called to her. And the notes, it may as well have been written in blood. Her children were asleep, curled up on the mat, innocent to the storm, creeping in from the edges of reality. Chioma's eyes were hollow. She hadn't eaten since she left the city. She barely spoke. The weight of the decision was heavier than her body could carry. But it wasn't just the burden of choice, no. It was the presence. Something was watching her. At first, she thought it was her imagination, that raw fear twisting her mind. But now she was certain. There was something in the dark. Each time she blinked, she felt it. Each time she turned her back, it felt closer. Breathing, whispering, crawling behind the walls. The air around her house had grown cold. The shadows too thick, and the silence, it wasn't natural. It was constructed, like the world was holding its breath, waiting. The next day, Chioma tried to carry on as normal. She reopened her provision shop, sat behind the wooden counter, serving children biscuits and sachet milk. But her smile was hollow, and her eyes kept flickering to the road. Was that a woman in black, bald head under a scarf, or just a passerby? A customer asked her for change, and she couldn't even count the coins properly. "Madam, are you okay?" She nodded absently, but inside, her soul was unraveling. That night, it got worse. She was in bed, the kids fast asleep beside her, when she heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 soft knocks on the wooden door. She froze. It was midnight. She didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at the door like it might open on its own. Then, Chioma. A whisper, a woman's voice. Not loud, not threatening, just unnaturally calm. You have seen the truth. Now do what must be done. Chioma screamed. She grabbed her children and ran to her neighbor's compound, backed on the gate like a mad woman. The neighbor, Mama Obina, let her in with sleepy eyes and concern. Chioma, what's going on? Are you okay? I think I'm being followed. They want me to kill my husband. Chioma blurted out before she could stop herself. Mama Obina froze. Her eyes widened. Then slowly, too slowly, she smiled. Ah, so you have been chosen. Chioma's blunt turned to eyes. What did you just say? But Mama Obina said nothing. She just looked at her, the way someone looks at a lost child. Then she turned back toward her house. Rest, Chioma. You understand everything soon. They all do. Chioma didn't sleep a wink in that house. By morning, she realized the truth. She wasn't alone in that village. The Iron Ladies were everywhere. Widows with haunted eyes. Traders with sudden wealth. At noon, a parcel arrived at her shop. No sender's name, just a simple brown envelope. Inside, a photo. Her husband sitting in the backyard peeling yam. Drawn over his face, a red X. And beneath it, a message in blood red ink. You have 10 days. Chioma dropped the photo and ran. Her scream echoed through the marketplace, but no one turned. They had all heard that scream before. The 10th day came and went. Chioma had not killed her husband. She couldn't, not even with death pressing against her skin like cold hands. Her soul was tormented, yes, but her heart refused to cross that line. But the Iron Ladies, they didn't take refusal lightly. That night it began. Her first son, Obina, aged 11, fell violently ill. One moment he was chasing his sister around the compound. The next he was shivering under a blanket, eyes wide, like he was staring into another room. He vomited, screamed in his sleep, and cried for help. By midnight he was gone. Chioma's scream tore through the village like a gunshot, the sound of a mother's soul collapsing. Her husband Ifeanyi was inconsolable. He cradled his son's cold body, sobbing like a wounded lion. But Chioma, she just stared at the boy, silent, paralyzed, drowning in guilt. She wanted to tell her husband everything, but how? Baby, I joined a murderous cult and now our son is dead because I didn't kill you. No, she couldn't speak. The truth was too insane, too dark, too unbearable. And the darkness wasn't done yet. 2 days later, her first daughter Daisy collapsed beside the mortar while pounding yam. No fever, no warning. She simply let out a strange whispery sound and fell. Gone just like that. Another burial, another coffin, another silence. Only 2 children left. Chioma was unraveling fast. Her eyes were sunken, her skin pale. She looked more like a ghost than a mother. Her husband begged her to eat, to talk, to pray, but she could barely breathe, let alone explain. She wept alone, hiding in the corners of the compound, whispering desperate prayers with cracked lips. That night, as the village slept, she saw her again. The leaders of the Iron Ladies, standing at the front of her bed, tall, regal, clothed in shadows, head bald, and shining like polished bone. Her lips curled into the same cold, malevolent smile. She laughed, a low, echoing, soulless laugh. You are very stubborn, Chioma. She moved closer, but a stubborn fly follows the corpse into the grave. Chioma trembled. She couldn't scream, couldn't move. You still have 2 left. Twins, a boy and a girl. Kill your husband, and we leave them to live, or lose them both tonight. Then she vanished into smoke. Chioma sat up shaking, drenched in sweat, her whole body quivering. She looked at the clock. 3:03 a.m., the hour of decision. At dawn, she bolted into her children's room. They were still, too still. She ran to them, calling their names. Chidera, Chima, wake up, mommy is here. Nothing. She placed her hand on their chests. No heartbeats. Chioma collapsed, screaming into their bedsheets, clutching their small lifeless bodies. Her cries were raw, loud, animalistic. Her husband came running, then froze in the doorway. 4 children, gone, one after the other. He dropped to the floor, weeping into his palms, shaking like a broken man. But Chioma, she ran into the streets, screaming, wailing, tearing her wrapper, her hair, her skin. "Somebody help me! Somebody, please! They're killing my children!" People watched, confused and terrified. Was it madness? Was it spiritual? Then a black jeep pulled over. A man stepped out, dressed in a black suit, head clean-shaven, face calm, but eyes burning with fire. "Child," he said gently, "you are troubled." Chioma paused, breathless, eyes wild. "The battles you face, they are not ordinary," he continued. "You are fighting devils with your bare hands. But it is not too late. Come with me and let us break their chains. Take me to your husband. He's next." She hesitated, then nodded. She entered the car, wiping her tears as they drove. The man began to pray under his breath, speaking in tongues, calling the fire of heaven, anointing oil in his hands. But suddenly, a dark figure appeared in the middle of the road. It was her, the leader, floating, not walking. Her eyes pitch black, her hands raised, summoning death. Chioma screamed. The car swerved. But the man of God shouted, "Power from the pit of hell be consumed by holy fire." The sky seemed to crack. The woman shrieked, her body engulfed in flame, fire not of this world, and vanished with a howl. Chioma collapsed into tears in the back seat. The car continued. When they got to her house, they found Ifeanyi sitting in front of the compound on a wooden chair, his back bent, shoulders shaking. Tears poured down his face like rain. He had lost everything, and he didn't even know why. But Chioma, she did. And now, so did the man of God. He turned to her gently. "Are you ready to fight this battle?" Chioma wiped her face. "I have nothing else to lose." The man of God stood in the middle of the compound. No drums, no choir, just anointed silence, and the quiet hum of war in the spirit realm. Chioma stood beside him, her body trembling. Ifeanyi sat by the door, still weeping, clueless, broken, yet not abandoned. Inside the house, the 2 tiny cubs lay still. Too still. The pastor looked up at the grey sky. "Today," he said, "the altar of blood meets the altar of fire." He brought out his anointing oil, lifted it and began to pray in tongues. The ground beneath them seemed to vibrate. Something ancient was rising, and something wicked was about to fall. Suddenly, the sky darkened. A strange heavy wind began to blow, and then they came, the Iron Ladies, 20 women, bald, dressed in black, walking into the compound like queens of the underworld. Sophia was in the front. Behind her, the leader, her eyes glowing like hot coals, her presence heavy, dark, choking. They didn't speak, they just watched. The leader's voice echoed across the compound like thunder. "This woman is ours. She took the oath. She has stepped her foot into our kingdom. She owes us blood." The pastor didn't flinch. "That altar," he said calmly, "is illegal in this territory. She is now under the blood of the Lamb." The leader hissed, "Then she must die." She raised her hand. The Iron Lilies began chanting. Chioma screamed. The wind roared. The ground shook. But then, the pastor knelt down and touched the soil with his fingers. "Oh God of Elijah," he whispered, "send your fire." Suddenly, a lightning bolt shot through the sky. Boom! It struck the center of the compound. The Iron Lady stumbled backwards, hissing, screaming, burning. Some turned into ashes. Some vanished into smoke. The leader remained, burning but alive. "You can't destroy me," she shrieked. "I have swallowed nations." But the pastor raised his hand again. "And today, you will vomit everything you've swallowed." Then he shouted, "Let fire fall." The heavens split. A column of pure white fire fell on the leader, and she burst into flames. Not the flames of hell, but the flames of judgment, she screamed, twisted, shrieked a final curse, and disintegrated into dust. Silence fell, total, sacred, eternal. The air shifted, the darkness lifted, and then it cried. From inside the house, a soft cry, then another. Chioma froze, ran inside. Chidera, Chima, both children were sitting up, blinking, like nothing had happened, like time reversed itself. Chioma dropped to her knees, weeping, laughing, screaming, holding both of them at once. The family held each other like drowning survivors. The curse was broken, the altar shattered, and the iron ladies gone. The crowd that had gathered screamed in awe. Her husband dropped to his knees. The man of God raised his hands. This is the hand of the Almighty. The curse is broken. The Iron Lady's mansion in the city was discovered the next week, burned to the ground. No one knows what happened. Whispers say the club was wiped out by something divine, a fire not made by men. Chioma and her husband left the village for a new town. They started afresh with peace, with love, and most importantly, we are both children. They wish their other children was with them, but God knows the best. 2 years later, Chioma now runs a widow's outreach ministry. Not the kind that kills men, but the kind that heals souls. She tells her story to young women. She warns them about shortcuts, about hunger for wealth that tastes like blood, about friendships marked as traps. Sophia vanished. Rumors say she lost her mind. No one has seen her since. And the man of God, he never returned to the village. Some say he was an angel sent on assignment, one mission only. Chioma's family now lives in peace, no longer haunted, but always grateful, because they saw death and came back holding hands. And just like that, the bald widows faded into legend, but the scars they left behind, never forgotten. Thanks for watching, fam. If this story shook you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell me your thoughts. What pact shocked you the most? What would you have done if you were Chioma? Share this video with someone who loves a good twist. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more spine-chilling, soul-stirring stories like this one. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that will keep you hooked. Until next time, stay smart, stay safe, and watch out for those bald widows. Bye!